everybody, welcome to the Local Pundit. I'm Josh Anthony. Today, we have a very special guest on the show today. He made his Football League debut for Wrexham in September 1997, went on to captain the side. He won 2 Welsh Premier Cup medals, full Welsh international, and has recently launched a new bar on High Street in Wrexham called Vault 33 Wine Bar. So, without further ado, the Local Pundit welcomes Mr. Neil Robbo Roberts.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
It's great to have you on. And like I said, we just met. So this is our first time chatting. And let's see how it goes. It's so exciting. That makes it a lot more exciting. So I've heard great things. So dive right in. Usually I start with an origin story. So tell us about yourself and tell us about Neil Roberts.
Well, yeah, so my footballing background, if you like, which is why we're talking in the first place, is that started very young. My whole family, I'm one of 3 brothers. My mother played when she was younger. My father played. My auntie played. So you definitely could say it's what's in the trees is in the branches, so to speak. And both myself and my 2 brothers, we started playing very young in the back garden to start with, and then obviously joined local grassroots football clubs. And there's only 18 months between the 3 of us, if you like, in terms of myself and my older brother, and then my younger brother's 18 months between us. So it was very competitive. And I think we learned very early on that you need to have that competitive streak in you to be able to survive and to win, if you like. So football started at a really early age, and then Wrexham has always been in the blood, so to speak. We would, where my father could, he would take us to watch Wrexham as youngsters. So I've got lots of photos of our times going to games. I've also got photos of being at presentation evenings at the end of our junior club season, where we would get to meet a current player or an ex-Wrexham player, the likes of Joey Jones and Mickey Thomas, who were obviously legends, and not only in Wrexham but in the game in general. So yeah, I've got, football is definitely in the blood, and long may it continue, because I have one of my children, Mia, who many people will recognise from the documentary. She also played for Wrexham as part of the successful 2 years back-to-back winning league team of Wrexham FC ladies. So she's carried off where I finished, really.
Yeah, it's definitely in the blood. And saying, coming up at a young age, playing. Obviously, I have brothers too, very competitive. This may be a dumb question. Like, when did you know you were good? When did you know you were good enough to play? At that age.
I think again, being totally honest and candid is I'm like I say, one of 3 brothers. The eldest brother, Danny, he was the best footballer, but he was also the brightest, so he was expected to carry on with his academic studies. So he kind of went down that route. Myself, I wasn't as good academically, let's say, as what Danny was, and my younger brother, he literally had everything. So he was very talented, and I think for me, it was always a case of, I knew I wasn't sort of technically the best player within the group, but what I sort of lacked in the technical side of things, I tried to balance out with being fitter than most people, working harder, having the right attitude, and maybe in many ways just being willing to listen and learn. So I think that's a big thing in any walk of life, but especially so in professional sport, is that you have to be willing to learn, because you're never the finished product, and it doesn't matter how old you are. There's still things that you can improve on. And yeah, I think having some of those fundamentals within me gave me a much sort of better chance to succeed, if you like.
Yeah, coming up, like we said, having an older brother that was good, a younger one has everything, which is like, you got to work a little harder. I get it. First time I beat my older brother at basketball, I was like, oh, I'm better. I'm going to be good. So I get it. Did you have anyone that? So you're a striker. Were you always a striker? Did you model your game off somebody when you were coming up? Obviously,
Again, my heroes were Welsh footballers, so the likes of Ian Rush and Mark Hughes. Yeah. Ian played for Liverpool, and later in his career, I got to play up front with him for Wrexham, so that was amazing for me. And then Mark Hughes, I watched from afar as he played for Manchester United, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and again, he was a local boy as well, and he was just somebody that I think, from a Premier League, or as it was then, Division 1 sort of players, those two were ones that I looked at. But from a modelling myself on point of view, it was always Steve Watkin. So Steve is synonymous, or should be even more synonymous with beating Arsenal in the FA Cup, because he got the winning goal. Mm-hmm. Mickey Thomas scored an unbelievable free kick, but Steve was the one that won the game for us. And I think he's somebody that I still see to this day in and around Wrexham, and he's somebody that I definitely try to get as close to, if not emulate, everything that he was about as a footballer.
And then, growing up, going to the games, you said, did you ever imagine that you'd be on that pitch one day, playing for the club that you grew up loving, and just, being a part of your life in such short time, getting there in 1994?
Yeah, I think I always dreamt of it. And I know and my mum's probably testament to this, is that there were teachers that sort of ridiculed my dream of becoming a professional sportsman, because it wasn't something that you would say in or around a teacher in those times, Yeah. Now there's a lot more sort of appreciation and understanding, not only of sports, but in terms of, your non-academics, that there is a pathway for you, and there is an opportunity, and why can't you be an actor? Why can't you be a spaceman or a ballerina? Whatever you want to be, you can be. And I think I've always had that. I've been lucky because my parents supported me in that sense. But also what it gave me was that sort of good grounding to make sure my children know whatever they aspire to be, they can be, and they can achieve.
Yeah, it must have been, living and growing up in Wrexham, like having the club right there, must have just been like the dream is. It's just I can touch it; it's right there. So it must be really motivating. Yeah. If you on your first, before I ask you this one, if you didn't want to be a footballer, what did you want to be? Like if it didn't work out, I'm glad it did, obviously. But if it didn't, do you have any other aspirations, or was just like footballer and that's it?
Yeah, it was kind of footballer and that's it. And as you'll see in the documentary, it's been well documented that I was released when I was still only fairly young. I was 30, 31, but I had a young family at home, I had to support, and I considered a number of different options rather than playing football and being in a world where you're sort of we have a phrase over in the UK: you're fish and chip paper the next day, and you're thrown away. You know what I mean? It's not a nice phrase, but it's true, because football is the highest of the high, and when it's good, it's great. But when it's bad, it is lower than you've ever imagined you can get. And I think, I think myself, I looked at, like I say, a number of different trades, and a lot of my friends laughed at me because they know what I'm like. I'm very much a team person. I've always been used to being part of a team. I think it would have been a little bit of a joke had I said I was going to be a tiler and sit on my own in a bathroom, tiling the bathroom all day. I couldn't have done it. I need to be around people. I need to support people. I need to work with people. And I think that is just part of my makeup. And, I think it's a great trait. Maybe some people will disagree with that, but it's done okay for me up to now.
Yeah, it definitely has done. And, you signed your first contract, getting that contract. I mean, as a young age, I think 1984, you were probably 16 years old. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's great for you. It's like, did you think you made it like that? Or is it like, there's so much more work to do? I mean, there's gotta be, so many thoughts as a 16-year-old.
Yeah, I think I'd only just turned. So I found out in the February of leading up to the April of my 16th birthday. And probably not a great time because my exams were in the May. So I found out that I was getting a contract for 2 years. That was agreed. It was signed, and my exams came and went, and I didn't even realize that I'd been in them. I don't think so. It was one of those that it was sort of, if you like, always sort of worked on the premise of you only need to see the first step, and and just take that one and secure yourself, and then obviously you build on that. So for me to get offered a 2-year apprenticeship deal at Wrexham Football Club was mind blowing in many ways, because that was the sort of, okay, there's a slight creak in the door. Now what you've got to do is get through the door. And then when you get through the door, you've got another 100 steps that you need to sort of navigate. And there's lots of bumps in the road. And football is like I said before, it's a fantastic, fantastic industry. However, there's a big but with that. And much like other industry, it's sort of littered with sort of low times as well, which you can't avoid, because as with any sort of sporting activity, injuries will always play a part. And then not only injuries, then you'll get opinions on you. So you can't control the uncontrollables. And I think inevitably there's a lot of fallout from football as a sport in general. I think the percentage of young players who start playing like I did at the age of 9 and becoming professionals is something like 1.6%, I believe it is. So it's a very, very small sort of window of opportunity. And alongside that, it's luck. And as much as you do make your own luck, I do believe in fate. I believe in right place, right time, and moments in time, sliding doors, whatever you want to call it. I think that is a big factor in football, because it only takes, if there's a scout watching a game, it only takes him to take his eye off the game for 3, 4, 5 seconds, and he'll miss your golden moment. So you put that into perspective, and you miss out on getting invited for a trial. You therefore have somebody else who's in front of you, and the moment's gone. And I know hundreds, if not thousands, of young players that were far better than me. But I was lucky, and I grabbed moments when they came along. And I think luck has played a big part as well.
Yeah, it's a preparation for opportunity. It shows there, and things have to come into line. I totally agree with that. There's something to that, when you got into the club, obviously at 16 years old, did you feel welcome? Like, was someone took you under the wing, maybe a player or one of the coaching staff that was like, all right, this is how it's going to go? Because sometimes it's like, kind of confusing at that age, especially in a new environment.
Yeah, I think, well, the good thing for me is, I'm a stone's throw from the racecourse ground. So I'd always, since I was the age of probably 10, 11, I'd always watched training sessions, because you could then. There was no cameras there to see the Wrexham players back then. Yeah. But I was there with my brothers, because my mum worked at the university, and we used to spend our summer holidays watching training, lying on the grass, just watching all our heroes sort of going through their paces, under the then manager Dixie McNeil, who's now a president of the football club. So that was when I was sort of in my sort of pre-teens, if you like. And then as I got older, and because I was local, there was an opportunity for me, as an example, through school. When there was work experience, I was able to go to Wrexham FC at the age of 14, 15. And I had 2 weeks away from school, which was heaven. And I was in sort of full-time training with the apprentices that were going through their sort of training then. So I knew a lot of people within the system. Because I was local, the likes of Joey Jones, I came through the system with his son. So Joey is probably the most influential person that's been, aside from my mother and father, that's been involved in my career, because what Joey still does to this day, even though he's suffering, terribly afflicted with Alzheimer's, is that Joey taught all of us as young players about respect about discipline, about hard work, and most of all about being a good person. So all of those sort of key components that I believe in, Joey instilled them into me at a very young age, but would always give you reminders, would never rest on your laurels. When you made one appearance, okay, you go again tomorrow. When you made 10, well done, congratulations, but now go and make another 10, 20, 30. And even to the point where, I'd been very successful. I'd played for my hometown club. I'd played for my country. I was getting a lot of sort of press coverage and things. And he was always there to remind me that, you know what, you're just a local boy from Wrexham and enjoy the moment, but don't get carried away. And I think that that's carried me through life in many ways, is that I've always tried to do things right by people. And I think I've carried it over into my business life after football, that, you know what, if we can all do well, then do well together, as opposed to maybe trying to be a little bit too narrow-minded and looking after yourself, so to speak, instead of everyone.
Yeah, that it's easy at whatever age, and you're, quote unquote popular, or on lights on you for things to go off the rails, for sure. And having someone to always check you, I think is fantastic. I probably needed that when I was playing sport too, when I was younger. Don't know if I succeeded in that, but yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, and that's the thing. It doesn't always cross over into mainline business. It doesn't. You don't get many mentors that are that sort of loyal and consistent with their messages. I was very fortunate that all the staff at that time were brilliant. All the players that were around me, both young and senior, were brilliant. And what you see with Wrexham is that if you were to have a look at our team at that time, so you had like the likes of if I run through the team, that when I broke in, it was Andy Marriott in goal. He's now, I'll tell you what they're doing currently. So he's now one of a very high sort of position within Rolls-Royce. Okay. You had Mark McGregor, who was a fantastic footballer, who plays a significant role in making sure that all the ex-players, they call it the Wrexham legends, that they all stay in touch, that they play charity games, that they give back to the community. But also, it's that sort of, anything goes wrong with one of those players or needs help, then Mark is involved in a little committee that makes sure we're there. And that's the good person,
Wow.
So, then centre halves, we had the likes of Brian Carey. Brian now is still in football. He's worked at Spurs in recruitment. He's worked at Reading. He's still at Reading now. Then you had Tony Humes alongside him. Tony Humes is director of football at Colchester. Then you had the likes of Kevin Russell. Kevin Russell's assistant manager at Huddersfield. You had Barry Hunter. Barry Hunter worked at Liverpool for a number of years. You had Brian Hughes. Brian's got a very successful youth academy that he runs, that does actually trips out to America and so on and so forth. Lots and lots of people that are still in the game. Mark Cartwright, one of the goalkeepers, he's director of football at Huddersfield. Lee Jones, he's an ex-centre forward. He is now head of recruitment at Huddersfield. You've got players that have come through that sort of system of respect, of hard work. Steve Cooper, he was Nottingham Forest manager up until recently. Steve will get another Premier League job. Sure. Adam Owen, he's been head of sports science at Glasgow Rangers, amongst other clubs. There's so many more that I can mention that have got the Wrexham link, if you like. And, Gareth Taylor, he's at Manchester City as the women's manager. So we all seem to have sort of stayed within or close by the football world. And if we're not in the football world, then we've kind of done okay, and we're still working, and we're still enjoying life, and we're still connected, which is the nice thing, because I think as with most football careers, I'm sure most people who've been in it would say it it goes in the flash of an eye. It's so quick, and you never really enjoy the great moments enough. You're always looking for the next one, and I think, if I could give myself one bit of advice, it'd be to stop, look around, and enjoy. You're having your parents with you at different occasions where you've been successful. I'm very lucky. I've got such a great family, and my younger brother played in the same team as me, both for Wrexham. He also played for Wales. He also played for Doncaster with me, and I never really took a step back and thought, I wonder how many brothers that's happened to. Yeah. Now Joey Jones, as an example, he played with Frank, his brother, for Wrexham. So, Gary Neville and Phil Neville played for Manchester United. Mm-hmm. But how many of them have had a daughter who's played for the club as well? So, I did, when that happened, when Mia did what she did and still continues to play now, that was it was a moment that I did take in, and I've captured, thankfully, the documentary have captured a lot of it. Thankfully, they edited me crying for most of the episode, but it's just really it's kind of reflected now, and it's nice because you look back. Unfortunately, I don't have as good a footage as what they get now with the 4K and 5K. You'll know all about that, but it's amazing. Mia doesn't really realize how fortunate she is, because she stood on an open top bus celebrating winning the league with all her best friends who've helped her achieve that. Mm-hmm. And you know what? You've only got Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney stood by him as well, that most people would give their right arm for that opportunity alone. And, to be a young female and so influential and so game-changing for women's empowerment, for all of these things, and equality. Mm-hmm. Why shouldn't they? And that's what I think. I think those sort of moments, they need to be cherished. And hopefully we're going to have a few more of those times in Wrexham.
Yeah, and they just announced yesterday that they're going to be here. The women's team will be here in Los Angeles. I'm going to go to the game in LA, definitely on the Friday night, I believe.
I'm tempted myself, so you never know.
Let me know, and we'll definitely connect. But I think it's fantastic. And then I was going to bring it up a little bit later. It's a little bit of similarities on what happened with Mia and yourself when getting relegated. But I just wanted to break in. You get your debut, and we'll go back to that real quick. But getting your debut for Wrexham, mine must have been blown. Was it at the race course, I believe? Is that correct?
I made my my debut September. Where are we now? I'm forgetting dates, but 1997, I think. Yeah. So, against Chesterfield at home, and I came on as sub. It's a little bit of a blur, but all I know is that I so enjoyed the moment of running on that pitch, knowing exactly where all my friends sit, knowing where mum and dad was sitting, because I was usually sat next to them. Yeah. My brothers, my sort of friends from school, all these people that have been so supportive over the years, and it does make me emotional now. It's like, do you know what? I've got a lot of people. Well, look over my shoulder there, family. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
And it's like, it's one of those that, when I sit back when I'm 70, 80, and my grandkids are running around, and hopefully great grandkids at that age, then then I can look back and think, you know what, I've done something that a lot of people aspire to do. But not only that, I helped my daughter have a platform to do something equally as good, if not better, to be honest with you, because the odds were far more against her than what they ever were with me. And in terms of equality, let's hope those odds start shortening sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like I said, getting the debut and doing that. I have a question here from Matt Al, who we know. He said this is he's got one here. One of your goals that's a favorite with me, he says, and Wrexham fans, he says, was the goal you scored against Chester and kissed the badge. Would you say that was your favorite? What was your favorite goal? That's from Matt Al, one in the community.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean that one was special because again, you know, until we actually play them again, for a lot of the newer fans, they won't understand or maybe appreciate that there is a and I'll say it, there is a hatred between the two sets of fans, and you know, that's been born out of not the last 3 years under Rob and Ryan's stewardship. It's come from maybe 50, 60, hundreds of years of maybe the English-Wales divide and lots more sort of stories that I'm not as well versed on as I perhaps should be. But yeah, a lot of hatred within that sort of fixture. So yes, for the fans, that was one that I'll always savour, and I know why it's probably the favourite of some. But no, I have to say that my first ever goal for Wrexham, which was on my full debut away at Carlisle, and the reason for that, it was on my mum's birthday, so November the 1st, 1997, and it makes me feel old saying that, but yeah, it was just a surreal moment because again, being selected to be in the squad was the first step. Then the second step came where I was, I'm in the team, the starting 11. And then that step where I went, I can do this. I can compete, I can hold my own. And then I score a goal and it changed my life forever because that day, without that day, you're never really gonna sort of come back from that moment. There's only, you can go forward and you can maybe have problems or injuries and you can maybe filter off sort of sideways, but you're never going backwards from it because you've just cemented yourself in local history in terms of being a local boy. And not only local history, but sort of you know that you're going to be on the back page on the next day. Because like the reporter for the paper in the build-up to the game was trying to find out if I was playing, because a local boy made good is something that Wrexham's synonymous with. And, I was the next, I don't know, for want of a better phrase, new kid on the block. And, he lived across the road from where mum and dad lived. And it would be easy for him to get a scoop. It would be easy for him to get a picture. Yeah. And I was somebody that was, quite happy to do that. So, I'd have to say Carlisle away, November the 1st, my mum's birthday. And my brother had a bet on me. I know that's frowned upon now, but he probably paid for his night that night and his subsequent all day the next day as well. So I'm happy with that. I've done him a favour.
Yeah, you scored twice in that match. You scored twice. Do you remember your celebration at all? Just or is it just
Yeah. Well, the first one I remember because we were losing 1-0, and I didn't celebrate.
Yeah.
Because I can see the video now. I'm real ashen faced. I think I was probably too fit, if you like, because my face looks very gaunt and very sort of bony, if you like. And then the second goal was to equalise. So a very reserved celebration then as well. I think I do point over to the family in the far corner, and there was Wrexham have always travelled well supporters wise, and that day I would guesstimate there was probably 400 or 500 that had travelled, maybe a little bit less, but that was a really good travelling support, and I probably got tickets for 60 of them because nobody else had anyone going to the game. So I managed to get most people's tickets to cover off all my mates. So that's probably my favourite. I digressed a bit, but that's my favourite goal.
No, that's good. That was from Matt Allen, who put this together. So shout out to Matt Allen. Thanks for doing that Absolutely. Too. So 94 to 2000, you're at Wrexham. I actually just watched the episode I think it was season 2, episode 6, and then I watched the other one, the relegation. A couple of articles here happened. I mean, captain in the side. There's obviously played for those years, but taking on that, must have been tough.
Yeah, it was. it's something that, and all of this is, for me, is, I had some, over the years of playing football, and then maybe elements of from a personal life, is that I never really dealt with anything, sort of injuries that would come along. I didn't allow myself to suffer. I parked them to the back of the brain and thought, I'll deal with you sort of tomorrow. And that was my approach to pretty much any sort of dark times in my life. And, I did go through, probably, for want of a better phrase, is through a bit of a washing machine in that respect, that I tended not to speak and not to talk, and just put it away in a box, and that would be where it would stay. But unfortunately, we went through a real difficult time in my second spell at the club, and we suffered the relegation, which then has a knock-on effect to everybody, or it should do, fans included. If it doesn't, then you're not really a real fan. If it doesn't affect you as a player, you shouldn't be pulling on the shirt of that, whether it's your hometown or not. And we had elements of that. There were players that didn't really care. We had players that, were kind of a little bit blasé about the whole situation. And for me, I was living and breathing it, and trying to keep my head above water from breaking, if you like, because I knew what the impact would be, because it was such a critical time, not only for the football club and for the people within it, but for the town itself. Is
sorry, my cat just jumped up. I apologize. Oh my God. Sorry.
It's like Bewitched.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I apologize. Well, that's my cat. Thanks. I really apologize. He was like searching the bottom, trying to get out. So I apologize. Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize.
All right.
Yeah. People down in Coolidge. Yeah.
Yeah. So the knock-on effect of a relegation happening was catastrophic for me. It was also humiliation, because we should never ever have been in that situation. And you can't just hide away. Some people could, because they didn't live in the area.
Sure.
Those that did live in the area, but chose to stay out of going to the supermarket or whatever, then they did that. I preferred to face things face on, and that probably wasn't a good option at the time, because it became a little bit sort of there was hatred at times, and maybe in some cases, I can allow for a little bit of that, because everyone's entitled to an opinion. However, football is not life and death. Football is important, and there's livelihoods at stake, and there's passion, and there's there's heartache, and there's pleasure, and this, that, and the other. But you know what? When it comes to what's really important, it pales into insignificance for me, and that was always my opinion on it. That was always my approach. So when we got relegated, it took a big chunk of me, and I didn't break at that time, but I very nearly did. And then what happened next was sort of a real sort of meeting of the planets, so to speak. Is I received a number of phone calls to stay in football and keep playing, because I got released from Wrexham in a similar way to Mia. I found out through somebody who shouldn't have known before me, and he told me on my way into the meeting. So that was a really bad finish to a really bad end of season, if you like.
Yeah, it's the groundsman. You mentioned it in a great article about on the Leader by Nick Harris. Fantastic. Must have been blindsided. You're walking in. How much more can you take on? So next steps, the gaffer. It's like, okay, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, just like I remember it now. I remember like just being one of like, I was confused, and I was confused, but I was disappointed, because he'd led me up a garden path to believe that I was going to be part of his staff for the forthcoming season, and that probably looked like a player sort of coach role. Yeah, which I never really thought I would do, but I was open to options, and I was obviously keen to stay on and fight the good fight and try and get us back in the league at the first attempt. But I was still young. I was, at that point I was fit. I'd won the Player of the Season the night before from the fans, and then it was just kind of it. I don't know what I did. I don't really remember the drive home. However, what I do remember is sort of becoming quite vacant and just not really paying attention to anything that anybody was saying, and whether that was my wife at the time, whether that was my mother and dad, whether it was my children, I wasn't there, and that was probably a warning sign to say you need to get some help, or you need to speak. Unfortunately, I never. But what happened next was I got the opportunity to go and play part time for Wrexham FC in the League of Wales, and they had a big sort of part to play in my sort of resurrection from a career perspective, really, because the owner of Wrexham, quite bizarrely, turned out to be a gentleman called Paul Higginson, who was also the vice president of 20th Century Fox. He's later on now gone on to be vice president of Universal Pictures. So a very, very high flying, sort of intelligent, sophisticated, sort of shrewd business guy who is also a massive football fan. And it turns out he's also a Liverpool fan, which I am. He's got a soft spot for Wrexham, which obviously ticked the box for me. And he invited me down to London to his offices in Soho Square. So I went down to meet him, and I was signing the contract within about 30 minutes of meeting him, because he just inspired me. He enthused me again, and he brought me back to life in many ways, in terms of just presenting an opportunity to me that would not only allow me to keep doing what I love doing, playing football, but to stay local to my family and stay home, to be able to provide for my family, because that was always a worry. And then, the final piece, which, later on in life has come to fruition, is he business mentored me. And that was probably worth, more than its weight in gold, because what happened was myself and my good friend Gary Speed, who was then obviously still playing and just coming to the end of his playing career, and he went into management at Sheffield United. He mentored both of us in London. We would travel down together on the train. We would have the best times, just kind of sitting together, talking. He would tell me things about his career and life. He had a beautiful family, 2 young boys and Louise, his wife. And, I would talk about my children fondly. And, it was some of the most magical moments that I've ever had, because he was one of my all-time heroes. And I miss him dearly to this day. But, I think what it did for me, it kind of presented me an opportunity to think about life after football. And I'd always thought about it, but not in a business sense. And what I did was I set up a small company that was a very much sort of hospitality slash sort of connecting people, so a networking business. And my first clients were obviously 20th Century Fox, which is not a bad start. It's not a bad start. Well, you can only go down from there, really. But I did an executive table for 10 at Anfield for Liverpool against Chelsea. I got them up signed autobiographies from Ian Rush. It's all personalised, and they stayed in the Grosvenor in Chester, which was and still is probably the best location to stay if you're going to visit anywhere in North Wales or the Chester area. So that went extremely well. And then the next thing I know, I'm playing for Rill, enjoying my football, nice little business on the side that, albeit it didn't earn me the money that I need to retire, but what it did do, it took me into a whole new network of business people, of celebrity, of sports, and I quickly sort of embraced it, and alongside that, I was playing football and enjoying it again. We won the league and did very well. We got into the Champions League, so we played against Partizan Belgrade over home and away over 2 legs. We lost 12-0. I don't think I touched the ball much, but I've played in the Champions League, so
Yeah.
You can't take that away from me. I've still got the shirt that I swapped with one of their defenders that beat me up for 90 minutes. So I just I suppose I learned to enjoy even those moments, and then as a result of doing the work for 20th Century Fox, I had a 3-year contract at Real. But after just towards the end of the first season, we won the league and we won the cup, and I was asked if I'd consider joining up with the owners of Manchester City and taking a job to work for Sheikh Mansour in Abu Dhabi as part of his takeover in 2000.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, you don't realize, you don't realize, like, things happen. You got to get up off the ground. You said it kind of saved you, in a little bit, because obviously you're in a mentally bad spot. But what it's brought, what it is now, obviously running businesses now. But again, going back to Mia, similar situation to how she was let go from Wrexham, and to have that to pass on. Hey, I've been here before. Look how I can succeed as well in life. And it's going to hurt in the short term, but there's more to come. So it's probably a great lesson that you can teach your family, daughter specifically.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I've got I've got a beautiful blended family of 6 children, 2 grandchildren, and an amazing partner, Bev. That for me is that I want them all to watch it. I want them all to understand the documentary. I mean, now is that I want them all to understand that, you know what, it's okay to break sometimes, because when you break, you can reset and you can go again. And I think it's one of those that maybe I used it as a vehicle to show my children that vulnerability is okay. Even my parents as well, because I'm sure the era that they're from, they weren't able to cry. They weren't able to show emotion. They weren't able to maybe discuss things that, my kids now can discuss anything they want with me, if it's sexuality, if it's, racism, if it's anything that they're not sure of. And, that's one of the, the key messages for what we're doing now with, myself and my 2 best friends. And I know we're going to come on to it, but, equality is, why are we even having a conversation about equality? It should be a given, right? And
mind blowing. Yeah,
it's mind blowing. But you know what? It's going to happen. It's going to come. It's going to come. And what we got to do is just keep championing it. And if people like yourself, like myself, when we have platforms like this, you speak about it, and it's important to keep spreading the word. And some people will say, well, what's the point? It falls on deaf ears from a government perspective, or whatever it is, sort of governing bodies. Well, no, you keep saying it, because that's like me. If I use a football analogy, if I stop making runs into the box, the ball, I will never score, because the ball will go there.
Yeah.
And you make one run, and it goes back to my early days of football, and Joey Jones would say, oh, you've made a run. Okay, make another one. And if that doesn't, make another one. And then make another one.
Yep.
And keep making those runs, and don't stop making those runs until you're sick.
Yeah.
Because that is the only way that we're going to get through to people. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but
it's good conversation and communication. Those are things are great. And you're right. Get down, get up. Things are gonna happen. We got to keep going and move forward. I totally agree with that. And it's good beyond. And like I said, going back to like the announcement of just yesterday with Ryan and Rob and the whole club, by the way, announcing the women's team and what they're doing. I think it's fantastic. It goes along with the men. And another question we had here too. Speaking of, there's a little bit of a competition as we're talking there. Who's a better striker? Is it Mulls or is it Rosie? Like,
it's a brilliant conversation and a brilliant debate, because what you've got is, again, you've got to put into perspective the levels that they're playing at, and you've also got to put into perspective the support that Paul has had in his development. as opposed to what Rosie's had, which is minimal.
Yeah.
Up until she got into the Wrexham team, and now that Rob and Ryan are involved, the investment is there. So has Rosie ever had an ice bath? Probably not, because unless she's done it herself, she doesn't have an ice bath waiting for her when she gets off the pitch. Has she had training from elite coaches? Well, not until recently, when Wrexham started to put some real sort of infrastructure in place. Who's got the stronger side, from a psychology perspective? I'd say Rosie every day of the week. And the reason for that is because she's had to fight tooth and nail to even get accepted onto a football pitch. That's a disgrace. Mia had the same thing. If I use Mia as an example, is that, she came through in the boys' league. But then somebody in an ivory tower said, well, I don't think they should be allowed to play beyond 13 with the boys. Well, why? Well, if it's a physical conversation, then allow them to play down a year. If the physical conversation is part of it, well, just make sure you match it up appropriately and allow them at least to play fixtures. Mia spent so many months and years really in the wilderness of not being allowed to play in games, not being allowed to compete, not having actual league tables, because then if you don't have a league table, well, the result doesn't matter. There's no sort of, where's the end goal? Where's the achievement? Where's the recognition? Where's the improvement come?
Where am I? Yeah, right.
You just plateau. And, I was fortunate that when I went to Manchester City, I was obviously working directly for the owners in Abu Dhabi for the first 3 years, but after that I became mainstream sort of Manchester based, and that took me into youth recruitment and youth sort of development. We were very clear, and this came directly from the owners and the executive and board, is that it's about, first and foremost, great people, great players. So great people comes before a great player. It does, every time, every day of the week. And there were so many great examples that we were able to show. So you can show them. Some people need to see. So I'm very much, I think I'm kinesthetic, so I have to feel it. But then I'm visual as well. I need to see something.
True.
So if I'm going to learn, then show me, demonstrate, and then I've got to believe that I can do it. So again, with some of the youngsters at Manchester City, is what we gave them was, we gave them the vision and the pathway and the, if you like, the opportunity to see what was ahead. And we always referred to it as stepping stones. And that's why I say you only need to see the first step or the next step. You don't need to see them all. But what we did is we made everything aspirational. So when you come in there as a 9-year-old, you get to see the under 12s changing room, which might have a coat hanger in there for you to put your coat on. When you go into the under 14s changing room, you'll have a coat hanger and you'll have a bottle of water waiting for you after training. So it's very much sort of really clever. It's really psychological what they do there. And it does work, because what they do is they create young footballers that are not only great technically, tactically, physically, and mentally, they create great people. And the way that they do that is so beautiful. They involve parents, they involve guardians, they involve grandparents, they involve brothers and sisters. So when there's a big signing event, when you sign as a 9-year-old, you've got your whole family there.
It's important.
And that's respectful. But what it is, it's powerful. So if you go to Manchester City and you sign for their under 9s, I guarantee you, if you were a Manchester United fan or a Liverpool fan, by the time you walk out of the door, you're a Manchester City fan. And that's what they do. And they don't get enough credit for it. And I'll always champion them, because I worked there for 9 years, and it was an emotional time for me to leave. But, things change and kind of businesses evolve, and I think they needed to kind of, if you like, go on again from what I'd done for them, and I respect that, so to speak. So yeah, it's I'm not sure what the question was now, but
no, it's great. I think it's great. This is exactly what the community wanted to hear you talk and just tell your story. It's fantastic. And by the way, City have gone leaps and bounds, have done so well. I mean, I remember when they got up the Aguero moment. You know, they're on the verge of winning 4 on the bounce. You know, for the league, which is amazing. Although I've supported Manchester United since 2006. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, probably you don't want to mention that one at the moment.
No. Oh my God. That's a whole nother. We have another 2 hours because I could just start unleashing on my end.
Well, you know what? On Manchester United now have just they've done something really well. They've got an investor now who's come in and purchased the club, Ineos, and they've also recruited some top people. So they've gone for Dan Ashworth, who's got a fantastic reputation, and it's well earned because he's done the hard yards in terms of youth football, in terms of the FA, in terms of the job he did at Brighton, who've done fantastically well since he left. Where he put the infrastructure in. Then he went to Newcastle, and he's worked with obviously how they operate there with Amanda Staveley and co. And I think he'll be a great appointment. They've also appointed Jason Wilcox, who I worked with very closely at Manchester City, and he's another one who is a top person and operator. So again, I think they're going to come back. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I hope they do. I'm a Liverpool fan, so this season has been good, but we've suffered since Jurgen announced his departure, and I think that was just a timing thing. I think maybe the press had got hold of it, and it was going to come out anyway. But just going back to Manchester City, is that what they have done is, and you may or may not know this, but Manchester City, the owners, and I saw this firsthand because I was part of the sort of process for it at the very beginning, is that they made some real big statements about what they were going to do, and the first one was really clear. The number one was to win.
Yes.
Well, there's nobody can doubt that. Number two was to ensure that community was their first and foremost priority alongside winning.
Mm-hmm.
Now they do that unbelievably well. Mm-hmm. So when they look for workmen, the workmen are all local. So they're all local trades. The third one was to ensure that they were sort of, if you like, self-generating sort of income. So they, self-sustaining, if you like. That they developed a school or a university within the club that ensured that maybe the non-academics in the local area could go on a groundkeeping course.
Wow.
They would be able to go on a scouting course. They would be able to go on a recruitment course or an accounting in football course. Mm-hmm. So what you had was your own sort of like a mini universe of sort of your next generation of staff.
Yeah, that's great.
It's unbelievable. So clever. But they also ensured that the stadium was fit for purpose. Now, by that, there was some great minds there. And I remember sitting in rooms with them thinking, it's like NASA. Because the owners are that good. They only get the best. And what they did is they made sure that the stadium, as an example, was generating revenue year round. So they ensured that when as an example, Coldplay were doing a concert, or Take That were doing a concert, or Robbie Williams, he was there. Mm-hmm. He was booked in. So during the summer months, most clubs will just shut the stadium and they'll work on the pitch. Manchester City had a pitch that could come up, and a stadium then would appear, and the stage, and then you'd have Ed Sheeran singing to thousands of people, and that is generating revenue, sold out. The stalls outside are selling. The footfall into Manchester is trebled. It's just it's just a beautiful model, and it's not too dissimilar to what Rob and Ryan are doing at Wrexham. And then
Yep.
it's not too dissimilar. Excuse me, I'm going to
Yeah.
sneeze. But yeah, and then the final piece, if you like, or the second to final piece was the academy. So
Yes.
again, similar to Rob and Ryan, is that they need to do that at Wrexham. And what Manchester City did is they were really, really clear. And this is where my role, amongst others, there were so many great people there in the academy. And then we were allowed to build teams. So as an example, my first role was head of administration. I'd never sent an email prior to becoming head of administration. But what that was about managing people. And it was about being organized. It was about making sure things had their place and they were done in a fashion that was compliant with legislation, and whether it be contracts, whether it be welfare of players, whether it be expenses being paid on time and the correct expenses being submitted.
Sure.
And I loved it because I'm very much about joining dots, and you can see I get enthused now about it when I talk about it. It's like, and that then led me into, I became head of operations within the year. So then I took on education, I took on welfare, I took administration with me, I took on kit and equipment, I took on all these areas, and then recruitment came under me as well. So I loved it because in education, we were allowed a budget that meant that we could register our players from the age of 12 into a private school in Manchester and give them the next 5 years of education paid for by us.
Wow. That's incredible.
That is an incredible recruitment tool. So when I was talking to a young player's family from Manchester United, I would say, well, we're willing to give the next 5 years of education to your son. And if he decides in 3 years he doesn't want to play for us anymore, that's okay. You still get your education paid for.
That's fantastic.
And what we also would do is, if we were recruiting from London like we did with Jadon Sancho, so I'm sure you know Jadon, who's moved. So I was part of the signing team for Jadon when he was 14 from Watford. Now, when Jadon joined us, obviously he needed education. So at that age, we put him into the private school. But not only that, what that gave us was we were able to build an education schedule around football. So we got more contact time. They were in every day.
Yeah.
So, there's the 10,000 hour rule.
Yes.
It's not true, but it is true. It's more than that, if you like, but it's luck. It's a fair wind. It's not getting injured. It's your genetics. It's everything.
Yeah, a lot of things can come into play for sure. Yeah, it's very talented footballer, by the way.
And that then allowed us to build an unbelievable full-time model for players from the age of 12 right the way through to 21. So that was the academy system, if you like, sort of being born, because we had a very successful academy anyway, and all we did is we added additional layers to it. And what we did is made sure that we really, really worked hard on the great people, great player bit. Now,
sorry, go ahead. Apologies.
No, I was just going to say, again, similar to Wrexham, and am I okay to swear?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
It's relevant. So similar to Wrexham is that how I've always operated and always worked in any sort of walk of life, whether it be football or not, is I have a no dickhead policy. So that was something that we were very, very clear about. When I was playing at Wrexham, we had one of those. When I was playing at Wigan, we had one of those. And it was very much about getting those bad apples out.
Yep.
And that's what Manchester City became. It became a staff. No, we don't have dickheads. It's like Parky. Parky says it
all the time. Yeah, right.
Parky says it all the time, and there's never a true word spoken because all it takes is one bad apple. And if we ever found one of those, we would get them out. And
how good you are.
it goes for players, and it goes for staff, and it goes for parents. Because ultimately, you can't control what goes on at home when that player goes home. Now that is a challenging one. However, you know, 9 times out of 10, you're a product of your environment.
Definitely.
And the reason we, as an example, implemented training sessions without parents there was so that little Johnny could play to his maximum and enjoy it and not look over his shoulder every time he made a mistake.
Oh, yeah. A lot of kids, they AYSO basketball here, like you're always looking over, and you know, a parent or whatever is like
assurances. You're dreading the car journey home.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I can, you know, not to that extent, but I think I talk about this in one of the series, is that when I finished a game for Wrexham, I would always do a lap of the pitch on my own. I would walk, I would go in the changing rooms, we'd do the team talk, good, bad, indifferent. I'd go out and I'd do a little lap of the pitch. The reason for it is I wanted to get my thoughts, because I knew that as a local boy, I had to go and do the press straight away.
Yes.
I was captain, so there was additional responsibility. The third thing is that I wanted to show leadership to the young players because we were a young side. The fourth thing is I would always walk into the bar afterwards, and my mum would tell me and hug me and say, "You were brilliant," whether I was or I wasn't. I loved that from her. Yeah. My dad would be ordinarily stood with a pint, and the look would tell me whether he's going to have a good or bad week in work. I know. And then I'd see my brothers. My brothers were really straight to the point. You were either really good, or shit. Now, I like that as well. So I like all these things. But then I'd see my mates, and my mates used to have a saying: win, lose, or draw, drink some more. So it was kind of, well, okay. And they would look after me, and they didn't care, because I'm Robbo again.
Yeah.
I'm not captain. I'm not. No. You're one of us. You're back in the fold, and we've got you back. Which again, I'm so emotional. Like as I've got older, I get so emotional. But that my friends, and this is kind of takes us nicely, I guess, onto sort of where I am now. Is my friends when I was 15, 16. You know, you've seen the Declan Swans, Scoot.
I've listened to the song. I have not seen this, but no, I have not yet.
So he's the lead singer of the Declan Swans. He was my first kit sponsor.
Really? Okay.
So when I was 15, 16, left school, didn't have enough money. The club had to raise money for kits. Scoot sponsored my kit so I could have kit.
Wow.
Right? Wow. So he's still one of my best friends now. All the guys that would be in that bar waiting for me, and there would be at times, honestly, there would be 40, 50, 60 of us that would all just be like, right, let's go and have a good time, let's enjoy ourselves, and that for me was the right thing to do, because I would have been a nightmare if I'd gone home and sat in a room and tried to have conversation, and I needed to release, and
that's a good glue pot of people, with people around you, and just, you know, going in there and just having checks and balances, you know, for sure.
Yeah. Do you know, the biggest thing is I felt safe.
Yes.
I felt safe, and it was a safe place for me to be with, and a lot of my friends, my school friends. So I've got Craig Thomas, who's one of my business partners in the bar.
Yep.
You know, I've got Geraint Lewis. I've got Alid Powell, all in school with me. You know, Justin Gibson, you know, and my two brothers are like critical to everything I do. And it's one of those really that you kind of go, well, you know, I've named 5 or 6 there, but I could name another 20 that were there then and they're there today. And, you know, some of the lows that I've had, it's difficult.
Not a lot of people can say, and I think we're about the same age, that it's like, oh, there's people that I grew up with that I'm still friends with. I have 2 of my closest friends that I grew up with, but people go off, and, you know, you stick to those people who are around you too. And I think that is incredibly fantastic. And, you know, going back to, you know, just about, you know, the town and everything. I mean, I mean, that's amazing. Like what you did at Manchester City and the similarities. Now, the purchase of Sheikh Mansour buying Man City, and then having Rob and Ryan. If we're going to talk about the club and the team a little bit, seeing them come in. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of people. Obviously, they must have been like, "Whoa, what is going on here?" Like how'd you feel about that? And then we'll take it all the way to promotion to Bournemouth. Like it must be an amazing feat.
Yeah, I think. So the similarities with Manchester City are evident. However, the magic dust that Manchester City had was an endless pot of money.
Sure.
Wrexham, even though they've got not an endless pot, but they've got similar.
Mm-hmm.
The magic dust for them is that Rob and Ryan, as owners, allow you to get close. They support. They are there. They are real. They're visible. They're inclusive. It was a gentleman's 100th birthday a couple of weeks back. His grandson used to play Lee Jones. I mentioned him earlier. Yep. They sent him a signed shirt. They had him on the pitch before the game. They organised it.
That's amazing.
It's PR, but it's great PR.
Mm-hmm.
Who would knock that? It's
nobody. Yeah.
Fan who's 100.
Yeah.
So let's get it right and put it in perspective. That's amazing. And then they do all these charity donations. We had an ex-player, Martin Chalk, and he went on holiday. He was on a moped and he crashed into a truck. He literally nearly had his leg amputated. And honestly, we did a little fundraiser with the Wrexham Legends that I mentioned that is something that the ex-players have set up themselves. And Rob and Ryan, within minutes, they just put X amount of pounds in, and a very generous sum that enabled Martin to stay in Thailand for the next sort of 4 months to recover.
Wow.
That's amazing. And then, on top of that, non-football related, they support, there's a really, really brilliant miners foundation, the Rescue Centre. Now, I support the miners centre as well, but what Rob and Ryan have done is they've elevated it to such a level that I wouldn't be surprised if and you've got a production company, maybe you need to have a look at the story of this, because it's a movie. Because really? I don't know if you know about the Gresham Colliery disaster, but there were hundreds of poor souls that went down the mine and never to return. And the majority of them had changed their shift to work the night before so they could go to the Wrexham game the next day.
Oh, wow.
They also got paid that day, so the money was in their pockets for that week's work that their wives and families never saw.
Wow.
The wives and families were not given that money, and also they were kicked out of the houses that they were in because it was all government owned. It was very much England, Wales, a divide, and the way in which it was handled, the way in which it was reported, falsely reported by the British press, is a disgrace. And there's, what Rob and Ryan have done is they've taken their time and they've looked at the detail and they've gone, whoa, this needs supporting. Humphrey Carr, who's one of the executives and a great guy. Humphrey is he's an ambassador for the Miners Rescue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's as if, in many ways for me, that it is hot. It's like a Disney tale. It's like a fairy tale, and the other side of it is, and I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, and the reason being is that when I did some recent filming with Rob on the latest series, which I think might be on this week, he visits the new wine bar that we've got. He actually asks me to be honest and say what you think about how it was handled with Mia. So I have to kind of say, are you sure it's okay for me to say? And he's like, oh yeah, because it's real.
Yes. Yeah, it's real. It happened. Like they always say, it's like, why are you telling the story? Well, it's not about, it's he always references Field of Dreams. Rob's been my idol since like 2004. Never met him, but but he's like one of the hardest working guys. But he says it's about the stories we're trying to tell, about the people in town, and that's football is just the glue. But that's amazing.
Yeah, football's like football's nice. It's a nice to have. But you know what? Family, friendships, working hard. Bereavement, illness, all these things they're actually things that they're the real glue to it all. The football is an escape for me. Yeah. It's where you go to release. As a player, you can release your tensions. As a fan, you can release your tensions, and that needs to be controlled, by the way. But But it does. It gives you that 90 minutes of emotion that you cannot put into. I can't describe it, because even as a season ticket holder, and myself and all my friends and family, we've got 12 season tickets, and if somebody can't go, they stay in the group and somebody else goes. It's brilliant. And then Craig, my business partner's got a hospitality table that he's had for a good few years. When they were struggling, he still had hospitality there. And, I love the fact of us being everybody's second team. I know so many people that have got their first team, but Wrexham, because of the way that Rob and Ryan have gone about it, and the respect that they've shown, the humility that they've shown, and I'm probably more than anything that they're normal. Ryan, in one of the episodes gets really emotional because he's got his daughters with him. Yeah. And the women's team have done, and my daughter included, they've given his daughter the right to believe and to dream. So you talk about Field of Dreams, it's like, that why can't you be a footballer? And that, that's something that is very, very close to our heart of Vault 33, because we're very much a female focused bar. And by that I mean, being the father of daughters, I want them to feel safe when they come there. First and foremost, feel safe, feel that they can enjoy themselves, and not be afraid to express themselves, and in any way, shape or form, and within reason, and again, just feel equal. Yeah. It's so important, and we've got a number of initiatives around that that I can share now or maybe later, but it's really important to us that safety, as an example, we've got little business cards in the female toilets, and they can pick up one of them. It says, how you getting home tonight? And on the back, they write their name, their phone number, and the time they want collecting. They can give it to any member of staff. And what will happen is they never, ever, when they walk to get that taxi, they never leave sight of our cameras.
Wow.
So they're always on camera. They don't need to go and sit in the taxi office and wait for a taxi. There's a designated spot that will be for our drivers to take them home, and their friends, if one of them's poorly and she needs to go on her own, they know the driver's name. They're in, it's safe. And we'll never open our doors without security on, even if it's at 12 o'clock in the morning. It's, every time you walk into our bar, it's about standards, and it starts at the very front door.
That's actually that was one of the questions too, about the bar. Vault 3 that Matt Allen put up there too. Like, tell us about what the initiative was. You mentioned that too, so I'm glad you brought that up. And he also asked, like, what is the 33 reference for? That's what another question from the community was.
So basically, it's number 33 High Street, the building. It was built as a bank for Liverpool International Bank in 1912. So we purchased it a year to now. 2023, May 2023, and it's been a huge undertaking. I'll be honest, because there's three of us, three good best friends. Craig Thomas, very successful business guy. We've gone through school all the way together, played football together, and best friends. I was his best man. And then Geraint Lewis, again, very good footballer, same as Craig. He's into his properties and property development. And then there was me. I agreed to get involved and put my money in and put my investment, and I'm also me. So I put myself into it, sort of. Maybe it's 110% as opposed to being 100%, and I'm GMing it, so to speak, and I love it. I wake up every morning excited to go in. I lock up every night knowing that people are smiling. If you look at my Instagram, I did a bit of we captured a video of our opening night, and on the video itself, it shows Lily Jones, who's obviously one of the inspirational characters from the documentary for a number of reasons. Yeah, massively inspirational and a role model for both young girls and boys. She opened the venue for us, and that was because a lot of people were expecting us to ask Rob and Ryan, or maybe say another celebrity, i.e. Paul Mullin or Elliot Lee. But no, it wasn't about that. It was about local. Mm-hmm. It was about having somebody that represents what we represent, and that is sort of equality, that is safety, that is enjoyment, and it's sort of especially from myself, I think it's it's coming through adversity.
It must be like a fulfilled, like you sounds like, and I think you mentioned in the article, like you're right where you should be. I think it's amazing. And I looked at the wall. I haven't been to the Vault 33. I will when I'm there for sure. But I think it's amazing, like how it's kind of come full circle and what you've done with life and career. And then like, I'm right where I should be. Describe the wall. There's a big wall mural in the back there. What did that come about?
Yeah, I'll describe it for you, but my input into that was minimal. Geraint's was minimal. Craig, my business partner, was the driving force behind it. He was the vision, so it was his sort of idea. He then obviously conferred with us on what images we would like and so on and so forth. But we have a long corridor, like catwalk, if you like, down to the toilets. And we felt that it was a good opportunity to maybe to do an ode to everything Wales, North Wales, and Wrexham in particular, but not only just from a football standpoint, but from a industry, from a beauty, tourism, travel, and also like history. But not ignoring the fact that there's been a lot of adversity in the town or city as we are now, and we acknowledge a number of things, and the Gresford mining disaster is one thing that is sort of pivotal to all that, I would say, because you don't really get a measure of the person until you suffer tragedy and heartache and adversity. That's when, if you like, as a proud Welshman, the dragon sort of comes out of you. And we wanted to reflect that on that side of the corridor, on that wall. Yes, it's about past, but there's an important story to tell that you have to look at that. I said it right at the beginning, is that you have to take a step back and sort of look at the present. Mm-hmm. So on the opposite side, in the next couple of weeks, there'll be an absolute unbelievable wall that will be head to toe with photos of current day.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So, yeah, I think that one was my baby. So I'm Craig has done the mural, and the one with the pictures is something that I wanted to sort of implement and kind of in many ways just make you step back and take a breath and look at what you've got.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's the moment we're saying, just enjoy where we are right now. We mentioned it earlier. You didn't take that time to do that sometimes, but I think that's really important to take stock of what we're doing in a current, in a current state of life, because it all can go in a flash. It really can do.
Yeah, exactly. And there is a saying that it's not a given, is it? Tomorrow, it's you got to live for the moment and all of those things. It's true, and I'm a massive believer in fate. I'm a massive believer in living for the moment and enjoying what you've got when you can. And yeah, hopefully that'll. I won't be very good at doing tours because I'll just end up crying as I take people around. But no, I think I think it'll be evident. I don't think it'll need a lot of words.
Mm-hmm.
I think
if I could contribute anyway, if I can get a picture up there or something up there, I'd love to put something up for the.
Well, yeah, you know what? It's I've just been slowly but surely, we're collating all the pictures now, and it's about family. And the Vault 33 family is local, is national, and is international. Mm-hmm. It's not just Wrexham. Wrexham is global now, and it was before, but to a much lesser extent. But it's always been a sleeping giant, so that's not new. Mm-hmm. Ryan and Rob didn't put the fans here. We were here. We've always been here, and there's a saying on the wall. It's written in English and in Welsh, and despite everyone and everything, we're still here. So that's on the wall in big letters.
Brilliant.
Because, Ryan and Rob have given us the platform to do what we knew we could do.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful story. It's unbelievably beautiful. Like you can't even write it, to be honest with you. You just can't even. Yeah.
No.
And on the team, and I know I want to be mindful of your time. I know probably got to work and everything, and just life in general. On the team, on Parkinson, the Bournemouth, everything getting promoted, where we're at now, where we can go. I mean, the sky's the limit. Obviously, there's ambitions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we, I'm totally sort of bought into. We go again. It's going to be a busy period now. There's a lot of talking to be done. There's a lot of talking to be done. There's a lot of negotiating to be done. There's a lot of toing and froing. There's a little bit of disappointment to come because we'll think we've got somebody and we'll lose him, and that's okay because what's meant to be will be. And from if we look at in silos, if you like, if we look at the football team itself, the nucleus is already there.
Yep.
And that is such a good thing because we're not starting from scratch. We're starting with a really good sort of, if you like, infrastructure. Mm-hmm. What we need to do is complement it now, not only with permanent signings, but loan signings. Mm-hmm. We need to be working and this is in my opinion, having worked in that world for many years, is that we need to build really, really strong, stable relationships with the likes of Liverpool or one of the bigger teams that are only, not even an hour away from us, because that will give them the opportunity to ensure that their young players are playing in a packed stadium, get experience. They're playing under a great manager in Phil Parkinson who will coach them like they need to be coached. And you know what? They get the added benefit of being paid every week and not worrying whether they're getting the money because we've got stability and we've got infrastructure and this, that, and the other. So for me, a no-brainer would be to be knocking on doors and saying, let's work together. We can help you. We can help develop your players. And for that, we'd like the best ones. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Charlie Savage name has come up, players like that. I think we need depth in certain spots, things like that. I think it's a good loan league. I think you're correct. We have a great nucleus. I like Gio. I like Stash, who's 24. Max, who's unreal. The one, as you talk about loans, there was some noise going on today with AO, with Arthur. Will he stay? Will he go? I mean, I think it's a perfect spot for him. I really do.
It is. But what you've got there behind the scenes, no doubt, will be an agent that maybe is touting him about to championship clubs and offering Arthur the chance to go and do that. Well, for me, he's still not ready for the championship. He still needs development. And as much as he might have played a couple of games in Europe and whatnot, if he doesn't sign, we can get as good, if not better. So there's so many players available. Yes, players are under contract at clubs, but we got the ability to go and get them. And if we do things as we can do and should do, which by which I mean sort of efficiently, and you move quick, but you move well.
Yes.
You have to do those two things in tandem. Yes, you can move really quick on a player, but if you're not ready behind the scenes to sign him, you've got a problem. So, it's all about relationships. It's all about trust and kind of picking up phones and being available. And if the phone goes at midnight, you pick it up because it might be the player. So it's a little bit like Ballers, how the Rock is in Ballers. That world was my world, and like as much as it grates on a lot of people because there's so much finance involved, it talks and it helps and it gets things done.
Yeah, I think there's a real opportunity. By the way, if people are calling from the championship to get Arthur or whomever else, we could be there next year. I'm under the impression. Now I'm with Rob on this one. I want to go for 3 in a row. I know there's a lot to do. We get caught up in our community talking about infrastructure, which I think building the training ground, things like that. All those things we're doing, I think, concurrently. And you got to build the base so you can get the top to grow. But I'm really optimistic. That's me, and Parkinson has turned my corner. We have some people in the community, like some people don't like Parkinson, his style of play. Like I'm like, all right, he knows this league. Him and Parkin are like 2 peas in a pod for me. I'm like, let's go. Let's do it. Like, go again.
Yeah. And you know what? Parky's been there, done it, got the t-shirt. So there's a lot to be said for that. Now, if we're sort of getting to the point where people are doubting Parky, then they need to take a good hard look at themselves, because ultimately what he's done this season is he's built a team that know how to win. Now, you can't have everything. You can't play the beautiful flowing football and then you lose. It's about winning.
Yes.
Especially in the National League and Division 2, is that, those leagues are unforgiving. They are relentless. They are back-to-back games. You've got cup games. They don't care about you because you're at the very lowest of the low. But what you've got now is, obviously, as you go up through the leagues, is a better caliber of player. You've got to manage your squad really well in terms of who gets into your final squad and who doesn't. How do you manage them? How do you make sure you keep them on side so that training during the week is still of a level? When they come into the side, are they sulking? Because if they're sulking, they're not the right personality for you. Get them gone. And you'll notice there hasn't been many of those. And that's because he has a policy. He's really clear. Parky as a player was an absolute animal. He was tenacious. But what he would do is he would put you on your backside and he'd help you up, because he's a good person. He's a decent person. And you know what? I am massive Parky fan. I think what we need to do is just embrace where we are, because he's got us here, and fully get behind him and the players. Once we get through pre-season, get us through that, any negativity, stamp it out. Because what we should do is get the racecourse rocking, is get the away grounds rocking, because we're going to get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 traveling fans every game. Yeah.
And I think, I thought a couple of things you mentioned there too. I think going up to the National League, getting pushed by Notts County was brilliant. Listen, Fozzie's save, Notts was amazing. And then this last year, going up and not winning the league, Stockport, what happened at the beginning of Mulls, I feel like we're building calluses, so we can be better at that next level, to improve.
Absolutely. Well, that's it. It's like, you don't, you're not going to have sort of, it's not going to be a whitewash every game, every year. I would prefer, and this is like, some people will disagree with me, I prefer to play terrible and win every game. Honestly, I don't get the mentality of some people. It's a business. The model is to win.
Yes.
By hook or by crook, the model, whatever way you look at it, is to win. Now, you can go back however many years, and you look at some of the greatest teams. Manchester United, they had a nickname in the end for Fergie time, because they would win games within the last seconds, because they would say the referee would put on Fergie time. Now, did they play particularly well in the games? No, because they would have won the game if they played particularly well, because they were full of superstars. But not everybody plays well all the time.
No.
And you need a bit of luck, and also you make your own luck. So it's kind of, I think there needs to be a little bit of a calmness about Wrexham fans. I'll say that, in that, don't get too far ahead of yourselves. Sure. And at the same time, just enjoy where you are, because we've got a safety net now. We're in another league. We don't have to worry about going out of the league.
Right.
In many ways, I mean, back into the National League. We've got a little safety net of Division 2. So
if we need it.
Yeah, no, but it's true. They need to take a real sort of, right, okay, let's reflect, let's pause, reflect. We're in a really good spot. We've got a good nucleus of players, but we do need 7 or 8 new players who are going to come in and impact the team, because as it stands, and he knows it, numbers wise is not enough, but also quality. There needs to be more.
We need depth a little bit in certain spots for sure. And fan is short for fanatic. We kick every ball. I mean, I watched every single game, every minute, every game with people, and I feel very blessed to be a part of the journey, even though I'm here in LA. But it's amazing to watch. But we need to get through the summer, get everyone back home, and then onward maybe we go. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Pre-season as well. It's like, I think it will be different this year in terms of, I'm sure the planning and the travel will be sort of looked at in a greater detail than it was last year, that the players come back and they get some time off and they can recoup, and they're a bit fresher going into the start of the season as well.
For sure. Yeah, I was, like I said, I interviewed Humphrey. I said, how did you keep going? You need to win football matches. I was at the game when Moles got hurt. So it's incredible. But last thing I'll just want to close out, I know, like I said, value your time. What's next for you? And I know you got the Vault 33, and just want to, really appreciate your time and taking us through your journey, which is great. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. I think it was an hour and a half. I can talk, right?
Well, that's why we wanted you on. People are so excited to have you on. So I'm very blessed. But yeah, thank you.
It's a pleasure. I've loved being on. It's great, and I guess probably my part of my sort of recovery system from what I went through is talking. So that's the only thing I can say really in that respect. But as far as what's next for me, I'm as I said, general manager and co-owner of Vault 33. We also have 3 boutique apartments that are going into the building that started last week. So we're gluttons for punishment in terms of our time and how we manage it. But that's obviously the immediate. And then there's a few other additions coming along sooner rather than later, not only to Vault 33 in the bar, but from my own sort of personal business interests. I'm looking at with great detail at potentially setting up a tour company that will see me sort of spearheading visitors that are coming into not only Wrexham but North Wales and Wales, and being a point person and kind of liaising with organising itineraries and not only focused on the town or city itself, but some of the other places that perhaps are missed that need to be on people's itineraries for when they do visit. So, watch this space. That's probably the best way to put that.
Absolutely. And I think I know one customer you may have, already.
Well, that's good.
It's very nice to meet you. And everyone said how great of a guy you are. And they were absolutely right. I'm so blessed to have you on. So thank you so much. And long may it continue to you and your family's success and Wrexham. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Up the town.
Up the town. All right. Mr. Neil Roberts. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.